Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who loves to burn all his subs in the first half. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hey, buddy, I guessed right. Sometimes I try to guess what the intro is going to be. I figured it was going to be injury related. I was correct.
I mean, it was the story of Manchester United 0, Liverpool 0.
Yeah, it was.
Was all those first half subs for Man United.
Yep.
In an interesting way, I feel like it ruined the game for Man United and then Solskjær managed to salvage it. Jurgen Klopp feels like it ruined the game for Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, that one was more surprising to me. That felt a little bit like trying to take away the obvious talking point of United burned all their subs, they were there for the taking, and instead he flipped it around to they burned all their subs, but that meant they kept changing, so we had to adjust, and it killed the game. So I like that he went for that one too.
Do you think that's respectable tactical manoeuvring on Klopp's part? Or is he beginning to crack under the pressure of the title race? I'm saying that half ironically because I don't want to be one of those shows that starts weaving these narratives that maybe don't exist. But also, it did cross my mind.
It did. I would give credit to NBC Sports or NBC for their coverage because I felt like they did a good job of kind of pointing out those moments when it did seem like he was screaming a bunch, and then when there was like handshake gate or hug gate or whatever with Henderson.
Yeah.
And instead, they sort of the two Robbies and Rebecca made a good point that it was just sort of there we are. That it was just sort of like that happens, and Klopp dealt with it. He had Henderson come back. They shook hands.
Yes,
and I think that's maybe
it was Robbie who pointed that out, right?
It was.
Yeah, he solved it pretty fast.
Yeah. And I think that's also why you saw him being not like friendly and not goofy or like joking after the game, Jurgen Klopp, but he was definitely like talking to his players. Milner, and he had a couple smiles there, and it did feel like maybe he was trying to do a little bit of like, hey, we're all friends, right?
Yeah.
But generally, I think it was probably just that he was really frustrated by the way this game went, and I think justifiably so, because I do think Liverpool, again, didn't look as sharp as maybe we expected them, didn't create any chances in the second half, literally had no shots on target, so I think he did some very smart maneuvering there in the post-match interview to kind of turn it back around to, well, it was their injuries that caused us problems.
All right, so let's dig into what that meant tactically.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't a fun game to watch. It was kind of frustrating. And I think it is all about those substitutions, so let's get into it.
Sure.
We had Manchester United starting the game in what I would call a 4-3-1-2.
Yes.
And importantly, at the front, it was Juan Mata was the one, like the attacking midfielder, with Rashford and Lukaku ahead of him as double forwards who would then sometimes pull wide as well. And
I would abbreviate it to that seems to be the shape that they're going to go for when he wants two strikers. When he wants Rashford and Lukaku playing together, it's going to be a 4-3-1-2 until he burns all the subs. He being Ole Gunnar Solskjær.
Yep. And then I can't remember actually.
Herrera's the first substitution.
Thank you. I wasn't sure the order of how people got injured. So Herrera was sub for Pereira.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you got to go with the player that sounds the same, right? Yeah. Rhyming is the chief, the top of the hierarchy of substitutions.
The other key thing to note with these substitutions, yes, first of all, that was confusing. Second is that, but we thought, as did the commentators at the time, that it was going to be for Rashford.
Yes.
Because Marcus
Rashford
he played 90, but he was limping from like the 10th minute or so, and there were some questions about him. So then Pereira comes on, but that's for Ander Herrera, and then it's Jesse Lingard comes on for Juan Mata, and then it's Alexis Sanchez coming on for Jesse Lingard.
Yeah.
So you had all three subs burned in the first half with Marcus Rashford still limping.
And so interestingly, Rashford, I could see why he stayed on, right? He was never injured enough that it's worth going down to 10 men, but you also could see he wasn't at full capacity, right?
No, he definitely was not. You could
His
just see
FIFA bar would be like touching yellow.
I think we've talked about it. Yes. I think we've talked about this before, and I think it was Josie Altidore that we talked about, where if you're just carrying a little bit of an injury, it really does make a difference if you're at 90% or 95% instead of 100. Here, I felt like Rashford was closer to like 80%, and you could see that at times that maybe he'd just be a little bit sharper, a little bit like there's the one where the ball's played over the top in the second half, and he just slightly miscontrols it in the sense that it goes 5 yards away from him instead of 2 yards away from him, the way I think it normally would. But that 3 yard difference is what allows Alisson to come off his line and collect that ball.
Yeah.
And I think those little injuries is what kind of like hurt the sharpness of Manchester United.
That makes
overall.
sense to me, yeah. So I want to talk tactics though.
Sure.
So 4-3-1-2 is how it stayed when Mata was subbed off for Lingard. When Lingard, after 20 minutes or so, had to come out for Alexis Sanchez. that's when the shape had to change, right? And do you mind talking us through why it had to change and what it changed into?
Sure. It had to change because I think outside of Juan Mata, Jesse Lingard is the only other player that Ole Gunnar Solskjær wants playing that 1 in the 4-3-1-2.
Like a number 10, basically.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And when neither one of them, that would be the better way to put it. Yes, a number 10. When Jesse Lingard comes out, the really only other replacement, attacking replacement, is Alexis Sanchez, and it looks like Ole Gunnar Solskjær does not trust Alexis Sanchez to play as that number 10, to be that creator.
Yeah. It's also not natural for Sanchez, right? I don't think I've ever really seen him do that. He's either been like a weird false 9 centre forward or wide left or wide right. He's never really played, that I've seen, underneath 2 strikers.
No. And so I think that's why then you have to have the formation change, which is why United go to a 4-3-3. And the big difference there being obviously then Sanchez out wide on the right, on the left, Lukaku on the right. Marcus Rashford stays central. But in terms of the shape of the team, I think it's that then instead of it being kind of a spread 3, like in the first 15 minutes or so, we had Paul Pogba almost playing as a left midfielder at times.
Yeah.
Once this adjustment happens, Alexis Sanchez comes on, it's much more 3 compact in the middle, preventing Liverpool from coming through.
And it's often like a 4-5-1, basically, right? And that's Man United playing with a 4-5-1. I would say Lukaku on the right is spending a lot of time coming all the way back. It's almost like he's being coached by Mourinho. And Sanchez on the left coming all the way back. And then the really important thing for me is then Manchester United's right back and left back, Ashley Young and Luke Shaw, came really narrow and were really close to Smalling and Lindelof. And that's what frustrated Mohamed Salah, Sturridge, who had come on for the injured Firmino, and Sadio Mane. They didn't really have any space to work with, right? There was all that footage of Salah being tackled by Luke Shaw. It's because Luke Shaw was never really spread wide or caught up the field or anything. He could do a very defensive left-back job and make it really hard for Liverpool's attacking players.
Yes.
Which wasn't the original plan, but did turn out to be Man United's plan. So maybe Jurgen Klopp has a point, but also maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjær made a smart choice in the end.
I disagree.
You do? Okay.
I do. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjær, I agree. I think it was one of the Robbies said it. I forget which one. But I think this was a very big mistake from him in this game. I think bringing on Jesse Lingard was a big mistake. I understand why he felt like he needed to, because he didn't want to change
the shape,
the entire tactical plan. I don't even understand why Jesse Lingard was on the bench. And I think we were both surprised to see him warming up and then suddenly in this game.
Because for those who don't know, he is just coming back from an injury, right? And definitely the evidence of today is that he was not ready to go because he only lasted about 15-20 minutes and he was off again.
Yeah, I think 18 was the official number. But and we talked about it as he was coming out. We were like, hamstring injuries don't heal. I always go back to...
they do, just real slow.
Yeah, but I always go back to Diego Costa and trying to find a way. It's just not going to happen. And
no matter how many horse placentas you have.
Exactly. And so I think this was Solskjær wanting to keep the same shape and hoping that maybe Lingard could find a way to stay fit. But I do also think it is... Even though he wouldn't have been able to play that position, I do think it's a sign of how little faith there is in Alexis Sanchez. That they just looking at a maybe half-fit Jesse Lingard versus a fully fit Alexis Sanchez. Ole Gunnar Solskjær still thought, we'll try Lingard first and see what happens.
Yeah.
And so,
do you think he also asked, Carrick feeling? Are you guys registered?
Right? Yeah. Carrick maybe. You mentioned that in jest, and I was like, I could see that.
I bet he's still dominating the rondos.
That wouldn't surprise me. So I think that's a mistake. That was definitely a mistake from Solskjær, that he was then able to find a way to adjust his tactics to correct that mistake and play the entire second half without being able to make a substitution. I do think that was very good.
Yeah,
but I think you can't overlook that it starts with him making a mistake in that second substitution.
I think it's like someone who's playing cards who realizes they've made lots of bad choices and they're just like, all right, we're going to do the very best we can with this hand, which is my fault.
Yeah.
Because I've asked for too many cards, and then just play it out and get the draw.
Yeah.
What about, so we focused quite a lot on Manchester United. What about on the Liverpool side? Could Jurgen Klopp have done any more to break down this 4-5-1 Manchester United setup, right? So he has some problems, like Firmino getting injured is unfortunate. Sturridge didn't make much of an impact. Mohamed Salah was not making much of an impact. Divock Origi had that one really nice turn. Didn't make much of an impact. Could he have done anything different, Jurgen Klopp?
I think we've seen some analysis pointing to that the midfield maybe could have come into the game a little bit more and tried to create some chances, tried to create some goals themselves.
Yeah.
Because it did feel like at times it was looking at that front three to make something happen.
Yeah.
And I do think once United dropped into that, essentially 4 defenders, 2 in front, and then at times 9 in front. It's just
very 4-5-1.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really difficult to break down, and you kind of have to commit numbers there. And I think maybe the only way would have been time to really throw caution to the wind and fully dedicate to getting 3 points or getting no points if you're Liverpool, because I think they simultaneously didn't want to overcommit and leave space behind because United were very, very intent on playing on the break. Yeah. So I think if you're sort of trying to play a game of, well, they've got a stacked defense and they're looking to play on the break, we don't want to get caught on the break, we don't want to overcommit numbers, we're going to rely on that front three, it sort of lends itself to maybe you'll get some half chances, but you're not going to get much. And so the only way I think would have been to really throw everything they could at this game.
My suggestion would have been, there must be a reason he didn't do it, because it was Jurgen Klopp's original idea, was to switch to that 4-2-3-1. Do you remember they were doing that for a good little while, where they would have just two midfielders sit in front of the two centre-backs. It was often like, say, Fabinho and Jordan Henderson, or maybe Wijnaldum sometimes. But then both fullbacks had the freedom to get really far forward and get really involved in the attack. And there was always one centre-forward who stayed high all the time. It was Mohamed Salah for a long time. Like, I wonder why he never switched it up to that shape instead. Well, there must be a good reason. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he takes off Henderson, maybe the idea is that he's going to get a little bit more attacking, maybe, but it's still not going to be that 4-2-3-1.
Was it Shaqiri came on for Henderson?
I think that's who it was. Yeah,
Hey, this is Daryl here, jumping in with a quick correction to myself. I had another look at the last, 20 minutes or so, and I think Liverpool almost did do that 4-2-3-1 because Shaqiri seemed to be stretched out to the right. So I take it back. I think Jurgen Klopp did try it. It just still wasn't enough to break through Manchester United's defensive ranks.
The only other thing I can wonder is maybe if the James Milner picks up his yellow card in the 23rd minute, I think, and maybe then you don't want to commit him and have him potentially have to make a professional foul or be chasing and clip somebody, and then it's a second yellow. So maybe
he got away with one later on, didn't he?
He did, and did a very good job of not even looking like, oh no, there's no way that was a foul. I'm just going to continue to play and not look at all. Please don't give me a card. So maybe that explains a little bit of why he wasn't as involved as maybe like a fresh and non-yellow carded Trent Alexander-Arnold might have, but that wasn't to be either.
I guess when you've got Milner there, it's not the same as having Alexander-Arnold there in terms of the pacey attacking threat.
Yeah, and then Andy Robertson had all of Romelu Lukaku fall on his shoulder, so maybe there was a little bit of an issue there. There was some speculation that he was going to have to be subbed at halftime as well, so maybe you're just kind of holding him back. You don't want him fully committed. But it did, especially in those final 10 minutes. I think the writing was on the wall for me when there was, I think, an offside call and it went back to David De Gea and he did that sort of oops, I've miscontrolled it and it went behind me somehow and now I'm going to slowly walk to get the ball to bring it back to... I was like, oh, okay. So they're content for the draw, and then it didn't feel like there was much urgency from Liverpool, and so I think that final 10 or 15 minutes, it was that sort of definitive... I would like a goal, but I'm not really going to go out and kill for a goal.
If one comes my way, then I would like a boat, but I'm not going to go out and buy one.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But if someone delivered one to my house, I'd be like, all right, boat.
And so I think, but at the end of the day, it's a strange game, as you said. It's not the prettiest game, but it also feels like a game that both teams... will be happy with a point, but also maybe both teams should be frustrated that they only got a point out of it.
Well, both teams are kind of in a worse position than they could have been, right? Yeah. So starting with Liverpool, they are now caught up in terms of games played with Manchester City, right? Manchester City are playing Chelsea today in the... I'm going to call it the League Cup final.
There we go.
Still, I believe it's the Carabao Cup, right? I don't think that's even kicked off at time of recording, so we don't know what's going on there. But am I right in saying that Liverpool are now just 1 point clear of Manchester City and they're even on games played?
I believe you are correct,
yes. So there's that. Oh, nice hedging just in case. And then Manchester United, I believe, have lost out on fourth spot because Arsenal beat... Who did they play? Beat Southampton 2-0. So Arsenal have jumped over Manchester United into fourth place.
And then Chelsea have a game in hand now because of the Carabao Cup, as you mentioned. So even then, Chelsea with a win could potentially leapfrog United, and suddenly they find themselves in sixth.
All right. So that's what the
fifth right now, but could end up being in sixth.
Got it.
So, yeah, I do think at the end both teams probably okay with a point is what they'll say, but probably privately would have much preferred to get that win.
So the original plan here for today for us on the Soccer Show was to do a real deep dive review of Manchester United Liverpool. But I think really we've said all there is to say, right, with reviewing that game. I don't think people want a 40-minute review of a 0-0 draw where one team played a 4-5-1.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true.
So instead we're going to do a sort of weekend review just based on what we happened to watch this weekend.
That works for me.
How about that? But first, today's show is sponsored by Talisman Caps. I'm not wearing one right now, but I have done in the past.
You have one right behind you. If you wanted to do... Daryl did the I'm putting on a hat gesture. Easily could have just reached and put on the hat to do it, which is what he's doing now. But what's he going to go with? Edgewater Castle? Support local? Oh, he went support local. Okay, to match the orange Total Soccer Show shirt, he's gone with the orange hat as well.
It's kind of like an unofficial Wolves look I've got going on. It's an orange and black Total Soccer Show shirt, orange and black support local. It doesn't say Wolves anywhere, but it says Wolves everywhere.
Orange and black mic as well. So you've really got it fully covered, except you've got the blue Total Soccer Show shirt in front of you. So that doesn't quite work as well, but the support local hat does look nice.
I love the idea of support local because it means whatever you want it to mean, because your local team is your local team. To me, this means Wolves, even though they're a Premier League team and they're not like a grassroots NPSL team, I'm still supporting local.
That makes sense to me. Yeah. And it's the nice old school football design as well, so it makes you look even classier and more sophisticated.
I like it.
I really like them because we've talked about scarves, and the reason scarves came to prominence was the idea of you can still wear a full winter coat when it's very cold in England, but you wear the scarf and then you show your colors. Yeah. That hat would work perfectly. If you went to a Wolves game, if you're in a thick black winter coat and you don't want to wear the jersey underneath, you can wear the hat on top and people will still see the bright orange.
I will do just
/ old gold. I know.
What do you like about Talisman caps?
I mean, I really enjoy... I don't know how to explain this, so people should just buy it and then they'll know what I'm talking about. But I like that it's more fabric-y on top. It's a little bit softer cloth. So it's almost like a soft baseball hat as opposed to those ones that keep that weird rigid dome and then they don't quite fit to your head and it looks kind of weird. They have a different style. It's a very unique style that if I see them, I can tell it's a Talisman hat right away.
You can tell a Talisman hat. And that's how we knew when Sean and Andrew sent us photos via Twitter of their recent Talisman cap purchases. Sean sent us the photo of the NUFC cap that he bought. Obviously,
more on
Newcastle
them later.
United. Yeah, we're going to talk Miguel Almiron later on. And Andrew bought the Street Soccer USA cap, which does have the very nice logo. Don't you have one of those?
I do indeed. Well? I wear it often.
Yeah.
It's that one or the Edgewater Castle hats. Those are the two that I wear the most. Yeah. The light blue on the underside is nice.
Very nice. Yeah, Street Soccer got a new logo a couple of years ago, so it's more... understated, but very nice.
But very, very nice. Also very nice is that TSS listeners can get a special TSS-related deal when they buy a Talisman hat. Minimum purchase of $35, which is the cost of one cap. But you can get 20% off using the promo code TOTALSOCCER20. That's Total Soccer, all one word, 20 attached to it, to get that 20% off from Talisman caps.
Link will be in the show notes.
And thank you to Talisman, as always, for providing some solid hats, for making Daryl stand out in a crowd, and for covering my head, as I posted on Instagram a while ago, when I forget to brush my hair and then go out in public and then realize I look like a crazy person. Put the hat on. Now you just look like you're wearing a hat, and you're good to go.
On Instagram, right?
I sure did.
Since we mentioned Newcastle, should we talk Miguel Almiron first? I took a gamble on Miguel Almiron. My friends back home...
I would say Newcastle took a gamble, but sure.
Newcastle eventually took a gamble. They're a long time looking around in their pockets at the casino to see if they got any money. I really told people, watch out for this guy. He tore up Major League Soccer. I think he's going to do really well in the Premier League. I was on the phone with my friend Steve today, and he was saying, what I've seen of Almiron, which was, 15 minutes against Wolves, and then most of this game against Huddersfield this weekend for Newcastle... People are impressed with Miguel Almiron. Standing ovation from the Newcastle crowd when he came off in the 80-something minute this weekend.
You know who was less impressed with Miguel Almiron?
All of Huddersfield.
Tommy Smith. It was specifically who I was going to go with.
I would say he was actually quite impressed, but bordering on terrified.
Yeah, that's probably true. Because it's Tommy Smith getting the straight red for the tackle, and Miguel Almiron. Not a good tackle. I like that he still tried to protest it, as they're like, no, it was fine. No, you can't stamp into someone's ankle. That's definitely not permitted. But I found it strange because... I am not an Atlanta United fan. I do not much care for the Paraguayan national team. Not that I'm against them, but I have no rooting interest there.
You like them more than Osorio, it turns out.
That is probably true. But when I saw that tackle, I had this weird moment of protective, don't hurt him.
Don't you touch Miguel Almiron.
Exactly. I think it's just because I don't want it to be the narrative of the Premier League is too physical, it's too strong, he can't handle it. And I had that momentary he's just gotten booted and it's going to be a red card. But is there a chance?
It was a up dangerous tackle, right? It was red card because it's dangerous for sure.
But I had that fear of is he going to stay down and is he going to get up and he's not going to be able to continue on and then suddenly he's knocked out? Nope.
He rolled around just enough and then he popped up.
Yeah. I mean, I would say rolled enough, justifiably. Because that's a boot to the ankle doesn't feel great.
It wasn't Neymar.
Yeah. not
and
so
I think the important thing about that red card from Tommy Smith is it comes not long after Miguel Almiron has burned Tommy Smith for pace.
Yeah, he couldn't even grab him to do the professional foul.
He tried to do the professional foul, but Almiron burst through. I can't remember who plays him the through ball. Almiron was one-on-one with, I believe his name is Lossell, the Huddersfield keeper, chips him, beautiful left-footed chip, hits the post. Doesn't quite go in. It would have been the perfect Almiron moment. But I honestly think that burning of Tommy Smith is what sets up the fear in Tommy Smith's head of, he's coming at me again. I'm going to have to just take him down. And that's why Huddersfield end up with 10 men. That's why Newcastle end up winning this game 2-0.
Yep. And I also think, again, it goes to how much Tommy Smith underrated Miguel Almiron's pace, but I do think that was meant to be I'm going to win this ball. I am going to be
teach him a lesson.
I'm going to be more aggressive than I need to be because I'll get a yellow and knock him off, but I'll win the ball at the same time. Maybe I won't even get a yellow, and I think that's why he was so surprised when it was a red. And it's because Miguel Almiron was so quick that he thought I'm going to get this ball, I'm going to get the guy. Instead, he just got the player. So I think that was incredibly impressive. I also will say that even though it's a 2-0 win in the end, Almiron hits the post there. Then the follow-up to that hitting the post is another post being hit. I think they hit it 2 more times in that game. So 4 times the post was hit by Newcastle. So it could have been way worse for Huddersfield.
Almiron also has this great moment where he nutmegs someone, strikes it from an angle, goes through the keeper's legs, and then gets cleared off the line. So he very nearly had himself.
I didn't watch this game live. We watched the extended highlights in studio together. And when that moment happened, I was like, oh no. And I think Daryl just looked at me and said, yeah, when Tommy Smith went off, things went south for Huddersfield.
Actually, I didn't mean to watch this game. I had Wolves-Bournemouth on one screen. Bournemouth-Wolves on one screen and Newcastle-Huddersfield on the other. And my attention kept being drawn to the Newcastle game. It was just way more interesting.
Was that because you were so excited to see DeAndre Yedlin do things? Which is what I have in my notes, is that Yedlin involved and did stuff.
Yes, slightly. I mean, I did watch for Almiron, and then I kind of got reminded slowly throughout the game that DeAndre Yedlin is also there. Yedlin involved, he won't be on the stat sheet, but involved in both of Newcastle's goals. So the first goal, which Salomon Rondon scores, the Venezuelan striker, is a crossfield ball. DeAndre Yedlin from right back has gone tearing up the right wing. One time, how would you describe this? Not settles it, but just it's a first time cut back pass out of midair, looking for Hayden. It gets a little bit mixed up in there, but I don't think it's Yedlin's fault. It's just that he's putting it back into traffic. Ends up with Rondon scoring to open the scoring for Newcastle. So great stuff from DeAndre Yedlin, especially when in the past we have criticised the heaviness of his touch. This was much more accurate, much softer feet. Maybe he's wearing softer boots.
That could be, but then also has a softer scalp, I guess, because the second one, it's
Almiron.
It's a crossfield ball from Almiron that he then heads back across into the path of, I think, Rondon again. I could be wrong on that one.
It's Perez who ends up scoring, but I think Rondon gets a touch on the way through to Ayoze Perez.
But so it's Yedlin getting involved and contributing in a specific intentional way in the box without it just being run forward and smash. That was a very welcome sign and a very welcome change.
Yes, so hopefully Gregg Behalte watches those highlights. We're going to talk later about Gregg Behalte watching another American right back. That's what they call a teaser, Taylor.
It is indeed.
So Rafa Benitez had a good weekend.
He did.
A coach who did not have a good weekend, Claude Puel. Leicester City coach, lost 4-1 at home to Crystal Palace. Got fired.
He did.
Claude Puel is no more as Leicester City Football Club coach.
And we watched the highlights of this one, trying to spot if there was just anything that made it clear. And I think it wasn't just that 4-1
why he was fired.
4-1 at home is always a tough one. Winless in 6, also not very helpful. But I think the key thing for me was that this was 1-1 until relatively late in the second half, and then suddenly, as soon as Palace got their second, they got their third, and then their fourth in very quick succession. And that to me speaks to a team that is just kind of demoralized and knows even the commentators, when Leicester pulled it back and it was 1-1, it's Leicester at home to Crystal Palace, and then when Palace took the lead, the commentator said something along the lines of and now Leicester have to go back and fight and do it all again. And it's just that is not happening. It's not that it's not happening, but the idea of they've got to find a way, talking about them as though it's Augsburg playing Bayern Munich or something like that is not quite the same level. And to me, that speaks to the players just feel like they cannot do it and basically shut down for those final few goals. And really, the players were kind of at fault for some of them. It was some sloppy passes.
Christian Fuchs was so deep playing, I think, Wilfried Zaha onside for that goal where he side-foots it past Kasper Schmeichel. There's just no excuse for how deep Christian Fuchs was.
No.
Harry Maguire trying to dribble up the field, getting stuck. and Crystal Palace come back the other way. There's a lot of mistakes in there.
I know the new manager bounce has kind of been proven to be a fallacy, that it more so evens out in the long run, I think. Yeah. I do feel like it's 2 caretaker managers in charge right now for Leicester. Yeah. I do feel like we'll see a bounce.
It's Mike Stowell. I know his name because he's a former Wolves keeper. And it's not Adam Sandler.
It's Adam Sadler.
It's Adam Sadler, yeah. Who was on Mad TV, not SNL, right? So they were assistant coaches at Leicester, and they're caretaker coaches right now. Before we talk about who will take over Leicester long term, can we just talk about the fact that Claude Puel had Leicester only in 12th, and they were in 7th not so long ago? And I just find it really weird that they're not 19th and it's a crisis. But just somehow there's been this air of negativity around Claude Puel's reign.
I think it probably is indicative that goes much deeper in the locker room, that the players are probably pretty unhappy, and the front office can probably see that.
Yeah. Vardy was not happy playing possession soccer, for one thing. He likes quick balls in behind to run onto.
He sure does. Yeah. And I also think, maybe I'm just reaching here, but it's worth remembering, because it's easy to forget because the season is long, is that there was the disaster at Leicester. And I think if you're looking for...
The owner died in the helicopter crash.
If you want stability and you're trying to establish, again, a long-term plan that we're going to be around in the Premier League, we're going to be a Premier League force, we're going to be challenging for top 6 or 7 or 8 or what have you, maybe Claude Puel wasn't the one that they saw to kind of continue that run and continue that stability. And so you kind of have to take decisive action. I do think this is probably the last we'll see of Claude Puel for a little while, because
in the Premier League,
it just clearly has not worked in Southampton. It has not worked in Leicester. And I was one who thought, it seems weird to me that they want him out and it's so clear that they want to get rid of him. But given the way this game went, given the way things have gone for them in terms of their run of form, it makes a bit more sense to me.
Yep. Okay, so potential replacements. If you read the British papers or the British bookies, it's kind of the same old, right? But one name does make sense.
Oh, I mean, somewhat, because I would say it's not Tony Pulis, it's not what's Alan Pardew or anybody like that.
Yeah.
Uncle Roy already has a job. Big Sam, I think, was in there, but the betting odds ones, the 3 leading ones, to get those out of the way: Brendan Rodgers, Michael Appleton, David Wagner. So it's Premier League manager who has some experience, a gentleman named David Appleton, or Michael Appleton, and then Brendan Rodgers.
Michael Appleton is a coach we researched at
United,
Oxford,
I think. And Brendan Rodgers, that one makes a bit more sense to me. But you want to talk about some of the outside-of-the-box ones?
Well, I want to talk about Brendan Rodgers first.
Sure, okay.
Because I think that's a real possibility.
He is the shortlist candidate, or he is the shortest odds, betting odds.
Got it. The favourite,
I
believe is
that would be the better one. Thank you. I could not remember.
Top of the Scottish Premiership. Out of the Europa League, they lost 1-0 in the second leg to Valencia, lost 2-0 in the first leg. Timo Weah's already there, so in a weird way, as America fans, we don't need to worry about it, right? He might even get more games under a different coach.
You never know.
I wonder if it's time for Brendan Rodgers to say, okay, back to the Premier League, this is a good opportunity, because this is the thing I want to talk about with Leicester. I think there's a good opportunity there. I think definitely Vardy's slightly on the decline, right? He's not at the peak of his powers like 2015-16. But there are so many talented young players there. James Maddison, Ben Chilwell, Harry Maguire, Damari Gray, I believe I think
Kasper
is a really
Schmeichel, I think is a very good goalkeeper who could do very good things.
Ndidi, I really like.
Has done, obviously.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for someone to put together a really good team at Leicester City. I think it might suit Brendan Rodgers.
I think it would, and I think he makes the most sense if and I go back to, they've appointed 2 caretaker managers, and to me, I said this off air to you, that doesn't feel like a sustainable model for 11 games to finish out the season.
But it will be fun to watch them try and make decisions.
It will. But it does make me think that maybe they will look for a not a short-term appointment, but to solve this in the short term. Yeah. And of the coaches who are currently employed, I can't see, for example, one that maybe we're dancing around, I'm not sure, but one that's also been heavily linked is Rafa Benitez. But it would take a lot of money, and I can't see him leaving Newcastle now.
I'm going to guess he just won the Miguel Almiron argument.
Yeah. So he's probably pretty happy.
Yeah.
So that's one that maybe if they wanted to take a run at him in the summer, then maybe it makes sense. But if you're looking short term, I do think Brendan Rodgers probably makes the most sense of the people who are currently employed.
I feel like Rafa's a man of his word, and if he said, I'm going to stick with you, I'm going to keep you up, because they're above the relegation zone right now, right? I think Rafa stays through to the end of the season and keeps Newcastle up as promised. One guy we didn't mention, Juan Lopetegui.
Yulin Lopetegui?
That's what I meant. Yeah, Yulin Lopetegui, excuse me. It's been a long time since he did
Now we've mentioned him.
Yeah. I think I remember him sort of learning English. He was possibly going to take the Wolves job before Nuno did. I know he wants to manage in the Premier League.
He wanted to manage in the United States, so he had to learn a little bit of English.
Yeah, so I think that's a possibility. That wouldn't be a bad place for him to
He's on there too. I forget what his odds are.
He needs a reputation resuscitation.
He feels like the one that they could get for a little bit cheaper because he wants to prove himself. Brendan Rodgers, you're probably going to have to pay some sort of compensation to Celtic, and then he's probably going to want a decent amount of money to take that gig.
Lopetegui's unattached right now, right?
He is indeed. Yeah, so he's one of the. I think he is. That's why I kept saying of the managers who are currently employed, Brendan Rodgers makes the most sense. If you want to go a slightly cheaper and like potentially very good, but also maybe not good, we don't know, then you look at Julen Lopetegui.
And this time, Real Madrid will not be calling.
They will not.
To poach him, right?
They sure will not. We think? I don't know. Who knows with Madrid anymore? Whatever.
Let's try again. Okay, so Chelsea did not play in the Premier League this weekend. Again, they are playing in the League Cup probably right now. But they had some big news this weekend.
That is true.
Which is that they're going to have a 2-window transfer ban imposed by FIFA because I actually can't remember the exact story, but I know you've done the research. Yeah. They did something very bad with youth team players.
There's two different violations, or they've violated two different rules. Article 19 regards the registration of minors, which I think I'm correct in saying it's like 29 players that they basically used in youth team games without registering them, which as far as I understand is not a thing that's required by the FA, but is required by FIFA, which is why the FA were also sanctioned and have a fine.
Wow.
But it's basically an example. I think Gabriel Marcotti wrote a good article about this, but like Bertrand Traore is a young player who I think came to Chelsea at 15 or 16, played in some youth team games, was never registered as a Chelsea player. I think they paid for him to go to school. When he turned 18, he signed for the team. You kind of can't have this player who's not getting compensated because you can't compensate a non-EU player. And so it's sort of like they found not even loopholes, they just kind of found ways around it that weren't actually ways around it.
So they were hoping it's better to ask forgiveness than permission, and they essentially thought we'll either get away with it or we'll just pay a quick fine.
Yeah. And I think that they were in hot water in the past and were able to kind of dance
Kakuta,
their way out of it a little bit.
Gal Kakuta was the famous. I mean, when we started the Total Soccer Show in 2009, we were talking about Gal Kakuta.
It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
And that is for the same reason that they got in trouble then. That's the other rule that they violated. That's Article 18B, which relates to third-party influence.
I've
got it written down.
But me not knowing Lopetegui's first name.
I'm pretty sure I've called a number of people the wrong name, so I think we're fine. I'm pretty sure you are still ahead in terms of correctly saying people's names. I'm not going to give you pronunciation. But yeah, then Article 18B.
It's Martinez.
Oh God! Please don't do that. Please don't do that. It relates to basically using third parties to sort of have an influence on other clubs. The best way to explain that would be that if Daryl is a player that I want to sign for my team, I know he's in the middle of contract negotiations. I might pay his agent, or I might contact his mom and say, hey, if he doesn't sign, he can come to us and we'll pay him double what they're offering.
Just indirect tapping.
Exactly. Which is what they did with Gal Kakuta. It's evidently what they've done with other players as well. So with all that said, as you said, they are probably going to get that ban. I don't think it's going to be overturned, but they can appeal, which is what every team who have had transfer bans in the past 5 or 10 years have done. And I think that's what they're going to do. So they'll probably have this summer to buy players, and then it will be January of 2020, summer of 2020. They won't be able to register players.
So what does this mean for Christian Pulisic is the question that's been coming for 5 minutes.
It could be good, and it could be bad. The reason why I think it could be – there are two main reasons why I think it could be bad. One, because there's so much uncertainty around Chelsea at the moment that say they knew – say Sarri ball were working better than it is. Everybody was happy with Maurizio Sarri. Then it feels like, okay, they've got this manager that's going to be there for a while. They can bring back all of these loan players. I think they have 6,000 on loan right now, so they can bring them back in, and and then Pulisic could be there. He's guaranteed to be in that squad and probably a starter because they won't be able to sign people. So that would be the best case. But
the ban is enforced, but so it's worth pointing out, even though Pulisic is currently with Dortmund, the transfer went through in January.
Yeah, he is technically on loan.
He's technically on loan. He is a Chelsea player, so this does not affect Christian Pulisic's actual move to London.
And again,
he can absolutely start looking for real estate.
And even if he weren't, even if it were like they're waiting until the summer to sign him because they're going to appeal, basically what happens is they appeal to FIFA, and then if FIFA uphold their own ruling, they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Then Chelsea can appeal to Court of Arbitration for Sport. Then if that gets upheld...
And they're not fast.
No. And so I think the timeline is usually 8 months from when the original ban is handed down. So that gives them the summer. Then it will probably go into effect in like November, which means next January is when they won't be able to register anybody.
Got it.
So that was like the best case. But I think because things are so uncertain at Chelsea right now, you don't have that level of stability. So it could be Sarri's gone. Hazard reportedly has broken off contract talks, or already had, but is now saying like there's no chance I'm sticking around.
He's looking at real estate in Madrid.
So maybe other players see that and think, maybe that's not where I want to be. On top of that, like you look at when Barcelona had their transfer ban looming, they went out and spent £200 million, I think it was, on players like Luis Suarez, Ivan Rakitic, Ter Stegen, Claudio Bravo. That's when they brought in a lot of...
a lot of those worked out, actually.
Yeah,
good spending.
Yeah, Claudio Bravo, Jeremy Mathieu, less so, but they were in there too. So you would expect Chelsea to probably do something like that. But then you run into the issue of now, again, if I'm trying to buy a player from Daryl and Daryl knows that next January and the next summer I won't be able to sign anybody, you're going to be like, instead of 40, I would like 80 million.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
He's worth 40, but for you, 80.
Exactly. So I just...
And it's basically Pulisic, now he's walking into a weird, uncertain... possibly disastrous situation. That's the bad side. Is not Pulisic's playing time. It's Pulisic's work environment, right? It's like you're joining a company and then you find out they're under federal investigation.
And I will...
Mom, I got this great new job at Enron.
Oh, gosh.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if I can continue that analogy as much as I would like to, but it's also like... Because then the issue for me is like, say they do want to go and spend a bunch of money in the window. If Chelsea try to like restock this summer, then they're going to go out and sign a bunch of people. Does that help Christian Pulisic if there are 7 new signings in there and they're just trying to figure out where everybody goes? But on the flip side, maybe everybody jacks up that price. Chelsea can't buy anybody, and now he's coming into a place where he's definitely going to get minutes. But there are very few other proven Premier League players around. So there are just so many question marks still that it makes me definitely more concerned for Christian Pulisic than confident he's going to get a bunch of minutes, even if he probably will.
All right, still to come on the Total Soccer Show, Leo Messi's hat-trick. That right-back that Gregg Behalte was there to watch, along with a centre-back that Gregg Behalte was there to watch.
Tease.
Most people know what I'm talking about. And the U20 World Cup, the draw has happened, and we know who's in the USA's group.
We do.
But first...
I feel like we should really tease that one, and maybe somebody from Eastern Europe is involved. We'll get real, we'll give continents and stuff. Yeah, that's how we tease.
We'll quiz it. We'll do a quiz. But first, today's show is sponsored by our favourite belt manufacturers, Grip 6. GRIP and the number 6. Today's show is sponsored by Grip 6.
I used the Grip 6 before to say that maybe they should string those around the field at Old Trafford so players don't get shoved off the way Angel Di Maria did.
Yeah.
Maybe they should also use them as compression sleeves. You can tighten them around the thighs of players, then their hamstrings won't go, and you don't have to make 3 subs in one half.
So actually, this question about Talisman. What's your favourite thing about Grip 6 belts?
I think the versatility, because it is you don't, as we've talked about before, you don't have the holes and the flap hanging out and everything like that. It tucks in and then secures.
There's no pokey parts, no holes. Yeah.
No, but I'm wearing the commuter pant, I believe, that we both
From
own.
Rome?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you could wear the Grip 6 belt with that, but you could wear the Grip 6 belt with a suit, because it's also
I have done that.
It's the nice it's not matte but not shiny belt buckle.
Yes.
And so it looks sort of sleek and well designed, and so you could wear that with a suit, you could wear it with commuter pants or jeans or whatever. It's the versatility that I appreciate.
I agree with that. Yeah, I've worn it for all kinds of formal and very informal occasions.
Yeah.
Including church. I've worn a Grip 6 belt to church. My wife said it wouldn't work. She was wrong. She backed down.
Not trying to go down this road. When were you in church?
For a wedding.
There it is. Okay.
For a wedding.
So you wore it to a wedding.
Yes.
You didn't wear it to church.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was what threw me there. I was like, what? What's that now?
So the thing that a lot of people
your church is DirecTV.
The thing a lot of people also like correctly is the very low profile. It's very sort of slimline. It's no big buckle hanging out there. No one will think you're an oil baron from Texas when you're wearing a Grip 6 belt.
I mean, unless you're an oil baron from Texas.
Maybe. You're just keeping a low profile.
Too. Yeah, exactly. A low profile oil baron.
The other thing about Grip 6 belts, genuinely conceived in the United States, manufactured in the United States. It all happens in Utah. This is an independent American company with a really smart innovation and all-American production. So you're supporting an American company. If you go to grip6.com/TSS, you'll be supporting a Grip 6 company. You'll be supporting an American company. You'll be supporting the Total Soccer Show. And you'll be supporting your pants.
There we go.
It will hold up your pants.
Mm-hmm. So, one more time. What was it?
grip6.com/TSS.
And there are various discounts.
And various discounts. For individual belts, I think it's about 20%. For a 3-pack, it's about 33%.
Yep. And a quick reminder that everything is guaranteed. So if something breaks, they will replace it. If something wears out, they will replace that too. Such is their confidence in their products.
I haven't had to test that out yet because the 2 or 3, I've got 2. I gave my dad 1.
Yep.
They're all in perfect condition so far.
This is trtrue. Yeah. Same for me. So thank you to Grip 6 Belts for making great products, for guaranteeing those products, and for sponsoring today's program.
All right, and thank you to Leo Messi for happening during the lifetime of Taylor and I and during the lifetime of the Total Soccer Show.
I thought he was going to kill Ray Hudson. I really did. I really thought this might be the one.
He did get Ray Hudson very excited.
Yeah.
So there's a Leo Messi hat-trick as Barcelona beat Sevilla 4-2 to stay 10 points clear at the top of La Liga. Sevilla took the lead twice. Sevilla took the lead twice. Both times Messi equalised. Then he scored a winner. Then he even assisted Paul Luis Suarez, who'd been struggling to score for, I believe, a month. Which is a whole thing I was not aware of.
Had not scored in 8 games. I think this was the 8th or the 9th game.
Ooh, That's a long stretch for Luis Suarez, who you think of as one of the world's premier snipers.
You do, except I think because of what's happened with beIN Sport, we have DirecTV, so we can't watch at like La Liga nearly as easily. So we haven't been able to watch as much, and that's where I've been sort of surprised to hear how much he's been struggling, both in the league and then Champions League. Hasn't scored an away goal in years, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
So it was strange to see him. Or it's strange to see all the news about him struggling and then to watch this game and see that, we were watching to see Leo Messi do things. We were watching to see how Sevilla were able to pull those goals or to take those goals, get ahead.
Yeah.
And yet we kept seeing, Suarez dribble out of bounds or miss control or have a ball played into him and his
touch him in the butt.
Touch was almost too. Do you remember the one where it was his touch was too good?
Yeah.
That he was trying to run at pace and
that's how he would phrase it.
And he settled it quickly, but because he settled it so easily, it stopped behind him.
Yeah.
And then he got mad at nobody, maybe himself, maybe somebody else. So we kept seeing moments of oh, okay, I see what's happening. He does not look that sharp. And so I kind of agree with you, even if you said it in jest, that there's an element of Leo Messi being here you go, Luis. Here's one on the platter for you.
Yes. Yeah. Game's already won. Let's just get this done. Do you want to, we can't do a whole review of this game because we only saw highlights, but I think we got a good idea of, for example, why Barcelona were conceding to begin with. Because that first Sevilla goal, I actually can't remember the goal scorer now. The entire Barcelona team...
Jesus Navas,
thank you, is way up the field. I believe Leo Messi is trying a through ball that isn't really on, gets blocked. And when Sevilla counter, it's really just, I believe it's Piqué and Umtiti. It's just the 2 centre-backs who are left defending. Everybody else is pushed forward.
Here's a pro tip for people, and I mean this in the most sarcastic way possible because it's really obvious. Whenever you're watching a game and you know it's already happened and you're going back and trying to look for when the goal is scored, say it's the 26th minute, say it's Sevilla scoring, and Barcelona have the ball at the top of Sevilla's box and it's 25-42, you can guarantee that Sevilla are going to score on the counter. That's kind of how you know both goals were like that when it was this is the minute they're going to score and there are only 15 seconds. Okay, there they go. Yeah. And it's just a really fast break.
And I would extrapolate it out to say, if you don't know how a goal has happened, I think a good place to look for is when the ball turns over. Or if you've got access to the full game, find when the team that scores initially gets the ball, and you'll see what the breakdown was from the opponent who initially had the ball and now has the ball in the back of their own net.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think you're absolutely right that it's Barcelona twice getting caught in transition. I think it's also Barcelona.
Oh, yeah. Second time they were trying to clear their lines and only half the team got out for offside. The other half stayed behind. Which snuck in down the Barcelona left.
Which I think is revealing in and of itself that it's not just that Umtiti was deeper, that's not great, but it's even that Mercado eventually scores it. Piqué, rather than get near him, spends a couple seconds, which is a lot when it comes to a quick counterattack, with his hand in the air, and then only as that ball is going into Mercado is he I should probably step to him. If he just puts his hand down and steps and marks that player, that shot, at the very least, is much more contested and much more difficult.
Maybe blocked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
I think you're right, yeah.
It felt like it was sort of Barcelona not being as sharp as we would have expected them to be, especially when they've got numbers committed forward. It's what we were talking about in the very beginning with Liverpool. They didn't want to have that moment with Manchester United kind of flying back the other end and only having 2 people back there.
Yeah.
Barcelona were more content to take that risk, but as a result, found themselves behind twice.
All right, let's talk Messi hat-trick.
Okay.
So the first equaliser...
Let's just talk about that.
The first equaliser is the one that probably everybody's seen on Twitter. It's the Messi volley, I believe, left-footed.
So I had not seen it, by the way. So you got to see me see it for the first time, and I was...
It was enjoyable.
Amazed. Yeah.
So it's a Rakitic cross. It's a Messi volley out of the air, top corner. It really is a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
There's a thing we noticed on this goal, which is also true of the second goal and partly true of the third goal.
Also true.
And it's a wonderful Messi trait. It's one of the key things. It's a simple thing, but it's one of the key things about his game, I believe.
It's that he doesn't want to be around other humans, basically. For both these goals, especially the first and the second, it's kind of able to recognize very quickly that there are players around him who are theoretically concerned with defending him, but they're more so concerned with getting into their shape and then seeing where they need to be. And so I think he is very good at recognizing that and sort of taking a step away. So then those defenders think like, oh, okay, I'm not really worried about him. I'll go mark that space. And then he kind of moves back into where that player has just vacated. But twice, he essentially drifts away and is able to then find himself. I mean, this is Leo Messi we're talking about. That he is unmarked inside the 18 twice is a very revealing thing. It's
almost like they were more concerned about defending, all the Sevilla defenders were more concerned about like defending the 6-yard area, because I think they thought Rakitic was going to send it into, they call it the corridor of uncertainty and all that, because it is a dangerous place to put the ball. But the more dangerous place is where Leo Messi is.
Yeah.
So all Messi has to do is just back up a little bit to get away from everybody and be open enough to swing that leg and volley it.
Yeah. And I also think, though, that if you're the defender, you've seen Leo Messi do the dribble, and then hit it back across himself into the far corner so many times that you think, oh, we've got bodies in the box. We'll be able to deal with him when he brings this ball down and then tries to dribble us and then get a shot off. And maybe you're just kind of expecting that, and you're not expecting the beautiful volley as he's kind of like backing away from goal. And then the 1-touch finish for the second goal. Again, it's from 12 to 16 yards out, I'd say, but it's just it's a good finish inside the 18 with not many people around him, but it's that quickness of the decision-making.
That one, he doesn't so much back up as just stop moving forward, but the rest of the defence keeps marching backwards, and then suddenly again, he's just wide open in the box.
He is one who I think... Look, again, I really don't, when it comes to like the Messi-Ronaldo debate, I don't...
Just watch both of them.
Yeah, just watch both of them, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Enjoy. Be glad you live in the time of Messi and Ronaldo.
And I know that he has got plenty of PR. There's like the Pepsi thing that's doing the round where the water bottle flips in the air and lands perfectly as he puts the ball through the hoop. He is happy.
It just happens to be a Pepsi bottle.
Of course. He is happy to do endorsements and product placement. But... it does feel like if he were a little bit more self-promotional, we would have those stories that we have about Pele, about Messi has like more torque in his hips than any other player, because he does these things like that. The second goal, that instep finish, it has no business being that powerfully hit and have that pace behind it for it being an instep finish from relative distance. That it does, again, it is one of those things that just makes him that special of a player, that it doesn't feel like he should be able to do that, and yet he can.
All right, I've got a controversial take for you.
What you got?
Third goal, he mostly just gets lucky.
Yeah, it's pretty much true.
Sergio Roberto hits a strike that I think deflects off. I can't remember who the defender is, and just lands into Messi's path.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that fair?
It is. The only thing I would say, it's a little bit of a cliche, but you've got to like put yourself in position to get the goal. And he does the same thing again. He drifts away and he finds himself open at that back post because the defenders have gone to sleep a little bit, because they think the shot is coming and it's deflected. But it is still him finding that space and putting himself in that position. But yes, it's a deflected shot that rolls into his path and he gets on the end of it. And
it is a nice chip though, right? It's a good nice chip.
It is indeed.
Maybe is Gregg Norman, the Australian golfer, who said the more I play, the luckier I seem to get.
Yes. Except for that time.
The more I practice, the luckier I seem to get.
There we go. Yeah. Except for that time that he melted down. Yeah, aside from that. Or did he melt down, or was it Nick Faldo who melted down? I forget. Either way, it didn't go well for the Shark.
Not a golf show. We don't really know, do we?
He melted down, Nick Faldo won. There it is.
There we go. All right, so Sevilla 2, Barcelona 4, Barcelona 10 points clear of Atletico Madrid in La Liga.
And Suarez scored that fourth goal.
That's good.
Goal. I guess, if you're a Barca fan.
Last but not least, Greg Behalte.
Well, we've got two. We've got the person Gregg Berhalter was watching and the other person Gregg Berhalter was watching, and then the U20s.
Not last, but also not least, Gregg Berhalter was in Germany this week, checking up on some young Americans. He couldn't watch
and also Fabian Johnson.
And also Fabian Johnson. Couldn't watch Weston McKennie because McKennie was injured for Schalke. Similar Pulisic. Dortmund are playing right now.
Well, he watched him. He watched him play injured. Man City. He was there for the Schalke Man City game.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. But he did go to Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Wolfsburg, where John Brooks was playing for Wolfsburg. Fabian Johnson, who we've all sort of forgotten about, was playing right back for Borussia Mönchengladbach. We went back and watched every moment Fabian Johnson had during this game. And we accidentally saw John Brooks have a great game.
Yeah, we did. It was the contrast.
It was meant to be the Fabian Johnson show. John Brooks looked like the best player.
It was the opposite of what I talked about with Luis Suarez, where he kept popping up in like bad ways. We kept being like, "Who won that? Oh, it was Brooks again. Who played that? Oh, it was Brooks again." Including getting the assist for the third goal.
Yes,
John
real
Brooks.
Good fight at the far post to head it back across for the third Wolfsburg goal.
So I think if you're Gregg Berhalter, it sort of cemented that John Brooks is real good and it's probably going to be my number one center back.
Yeah,
but I do think if you're Gregg Berhalter, you watch this game and think, Fabian Johnson might be my right back.
Why does Fabian Johnson suit the Gregg Berhalter system?
Because
I know we both think he does after watching. So
first of all, because he played right back. It has always been the case that like when Jurgen Klinsmann was there, that it was Jurgen Klinsmann wanted him to be a left back, but then maybe a right back, but then maybe a left mid, but then also maybe a right mid.
Yeah.
And that was when he was playing as like a right winger at times for Gladbach or a left winger at times for Gladbach. Here it was him playing right back and playing it in a back four, which does feel like what Gregg Berhalter is going to be doing.
Yeah.
But it was also Fabian Johnson looking good as a defender and winning challenges and keeping smart positions and hassling players who maybe had a pace, like a step or two on him, that he still was able to handle that. But then it was still getting forward in that aggressive running and a lot of the interior running that we think of as Fabian Johnson.
And I think most US fans will have seen this from Fabian Johnson during the Klinsmann era. He does love to start wide. Maybe he played right back basically for a lot of the World Cup. And he'll start wide. He'll play it into a forward or a midfielder. Yeah, and then he'll make that interior run and end up entering the penalty area. And then sometimes that ball will be slipped through. It's not the same exactly as what Nick Lima did, but it is a willingness to and an ability to also play on the inside and not just be up and down the right touchline. I think Fabian Johnson could do the Nick Lima role. In addition, I think it's worth pointing out, big thing for Gregg Berhalter is got to be able to be, really comfortable with the ball, move it quickly, nice sort of just good technique, simple passing, don't give up possession cheaply.
Yeah. That's
what we saw from Fabian Johnson. When we watched all his touches, a lot of like good, simple, smart, reliable passing. Reliable is the word I'm looking for.
Because there was the one that stands out without being able to say anything like specific about the players involved was like Gladbach's goalkeeper gets the ball, plays it short and out wide to Fabian Johnson, who has two different Wolfsburg players like running at him at full speed, and he's able to kind of pull them in, split them with a pass like that goes 30 yards. And then the player receives it, takes the touch, and then lays it off to Fabian Johnson, who's then made a 30-yard sprint forward. And so he kind of very calmly pulls players in, makes a smart pass under pressure to get out of pressure and sort of kickstart attack, and then facilitates that attack with a run forward.
That's a Gregg Berhalter player.
Yep.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Johnson in that March squad.
The one thing I would say that's worth keeping in mind, though, is it looked to me like around the 80th, he was pretty gassed. He was really struggling with some of the pacier players that Wolfsburg had at that point. So if you're looking for him to play, say, like in the Gold Cup and play a couple games in a tight amount of time, I don't know how well that suits him, but I do think you're going to see him called in at least for these March friendlies as maybe some competition for DeAndre Yedlin, or as a reminder that DeAndre Yedlin doesn't have that right back spot sewn up.
And already, we'll talk about this when it gets closer to the date, you would think Nick Lima earned a spot in that squad, but then you've got DeAndre Yedlin who maybe deserves a spot in that squad. You've got Fabian Johnson. Suddenly I've named 3 right backs.
I can't
Someone
believe
might
this.
Miss out.
I really cannot believe it. I was sure that we were finished with Fabian Johnson. And I don't mean that as like I was ready to be done with him or anything. I said this to you when we were watching like the clips that, as you talked about, that I do wonder if maybe he had a little bit of frustration with the way he was utilized previously and was just sort of like, I don't want to be involved right now with whoever is in charge.
There's an argument with Klinsmann.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know why I'm trying to say not Klinsmann. I think it's just because I already mentioned him once. But yes, I wonder if maybe he was just kind of tired of Klinsmann. He'd been asked to do so much in different positions and never really got to be comfortable.
He also, if we're talking Fabian Johnson, I remember when Bruce Arena took over, he had that whole thing about, I'm going to make sure we're going to decide whether he's a fullback or a wide player.
Yeah.
Didn't Arena try the 4-1-3-2 and he tried to get Darlington Nagbe one side and Fabian Johnson the other side, and it didn't quite work for either of them. And it ended up being better when it was Sebastian Lletget.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think Fabian Johnson then got injured, so he wasn't involved anymore after that. So yeah, that's the last thing I remember Fabian Johnson being involved in.
Yeah. So
worth noting, he was slightly at fault for one of the Wolfsburg goals as well. Didn't close down all that. He's never been the best right back in terms of lockdown defending.
Well, but it's also the case, I think, that he was doing like the narrow four, like he had tucked inside, and then had to go sprinting out to try to get the overlapping fullback, I think it was. So I don't necessarily blame him for that one, because there was also a lot of loose marking in the box that led to that goal.
All right. So we'll see what happens with that squad when it happens. U20 World Cup. We have the group.
We do.
The United States was in pot 1. I believe it's the first time it's happened. It's based on previous performance in the U20 World Cups. Basically, quarterfinals guaranteed the last few times under Tab Ramos.
With maybe the wrinkle, we should probably add that there are a lot of teams who historically do well, or like we would expect to do well, who are not involved this time around. So that probably also helps.
No England, who won it in 2017. No Brazil. They didn't make it through South American qualifying. So that's two major teams.
And then in terms of just like
Spain didn't make it.
No Spain, no Germany either. Oof. Yeah. No Netherlands, I think, either. So, again, like, it's U20. You always get varying degrees of competition and strength in those teams, but still just some historically big names, at least at senior level, not there, and then some historically big names when it comes to the U20 level, not there either.
So the US's group will feature US in the number 1 spot.
That makes sense.
Then Nigeria, Ukraine, and Qatar.
Yep. Which is, for not knowing very much about them, I feel like a pretty decent draw for the U.S. So I looked at some of the qualification to get here. I think for Africa, it was like U19 Africa Cup of Nations. Nigeria, they sent 4 teams of 8 competing in that tournament. Nigeria were the 4th team to qualify. Qatar, I think the same thing. They were the 4th team. And
out of Asia?
Yeah, and then Ukraine, I think, again, the same thing or thereabouts. So it's not like all 3 of the U.S.'s opponents won their respective tournaments to get here. They're still there, so there's always going to be a little bit of quality, but I do think overall the U.S. is probably pretty happy with their draw.
And then I believe it's May in Poland. So we'll really get to have a decent focus on this tournament, because it will be before the Women's World Cup, before the Gold Cup, before the Copa America. There won't be anything clashing with it when it happens in May. I'm really excited, because I think obviously we're always excited about talented young Americans.
We sure
and
are.
No matter, even if a bunch of MLS teams and European teams don't release their players, there's still a good U20 roster to be selected, even if Tab Ramos is on his like 2nd and 3rd favourite picks for each position.
I'd say so.
And he'll be angry about it, but he'll still put together a good team.
And we didn't plan for this to be the case, but you can also hear about some of those U20 players and some of the past U20 players on the most recent show before this episode, because Brian Bliss does work with the U20s.
Yes.
And so, he talked a little bit about kind of building a team, about the instructions players get when they're subbing in, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Brian Bliss, of Sporting KC and formerly with the US national team.
Yep.
All right. We talked about everything, Taylor.
We did.
Pretty good.
Everything in the world.
Everything in the world. Everything that we saw this weekend. One bonus. I watched Josh Sargent for Werder Bremen. Not a lot happened, and then he got subbed out for Claudio Pizarro.
But Jadon Sancho scored.
Jadon Sancho did score. Very nice. Once again, If only he was American.
If only.
All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. And before you answer, what else have we got going on this week?
I'm still trying to figure out if there's a way we can get Jadon Sancho, even though he's already been capped by England. The answer is no.
The answer is no.
What else have we got? We're going to be doing MLS previews this week. We're going to do Eastern Conference first, Western Conference second.
Yep.
I say that only because I know that Daryl chose the first letter of the alphabet in the Eastern Conference. So Daryl's going to be starting us off with Atlanta United.
And we're going to do very specific predictions for each team in Major League Soccer. So a few people have asked, when's the MLS preview come in? The answer is Tuesday and then Wednesday.
Is factual.
So I'll say it one more time. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We know other podcasts are available, so we always appreciate when you listen to the Total Soccer Show. And we'll talk to you again on Tuesday.